Hello, friends, and welcome to Bottled and Bond, a discussion of the James Bond movies and lore alongside spirited companions. I am Mike Scott, and I have been watching James Bond movies for nearly 30 years, but have never really taken a deep dive into the history and lore of this film franchise. So, alongside my friend Charlie, we are going to delve into each of the 25 Eon produced movies. During this episode, we will be enjoying a beverage that would pair nicely with the movie. Today, we will be discussing the 12th movie in the franchise, 1981's For Your Eyes Only. So find your cigarette case, prepare your favorite cocktail, shaken not stirred, of course, and leave your hat at the door while we ponder this question. Where was Tanya Harding when you needed her? This is episode 0012, For Your Eyes Only. Charlie, welcome.
Thank you, Mike.
Nice to have normal weather.
It is.
So nice.
Very
It's like
nice
75, low humidity. Sit outside, read books. Starting, what is it, Jane Eyre? Is it
Jane Eyre.
Jane Eyre.
Yeah.
Starting that one, never read it. We'll see how that goes.
Is that Emily Bronte? Charlotte
That's
Bronte?
Charlotte Bronte,
Okay.
yeah.
I get them mixed up.
I've read
what?
Wuthering Heights. It took me 3 attempts, but I did it.
I like that book. I think
I
you
know.
only finished it because I like it so much and you just made yourself do it.
Yeah. And there's a Kate Bush connection
There
to
is.
James Bond
I
because she
know.
was going to do Moonraker.
Yeah.
And Kate Bush did a song about Wuthering Heights.
She absolutely did. Several other people, Genesis had an album called Wind and Wuthering, and they had a song at the end of that called Unquiet Slumbers for the Sleepers in That Quiet Earth, which is the last line of that book.
Kids, Genesis was a band that in the 80s had very popular pop hits that for whatever reason did really weird music in the 70s that Charlie loves.
Super awesome progressive rock music.
Charlie and I have actually went together to see Steve Hackett live.
We did see Steve Hackett live.
He was the 70s guitarist for Genesis, so that was fun.
He's very good.
He is very good. Our companion beverage today is mulled wine, and this is going to be with it's called a Barbera is the type of wine. It's called Michel Chiarlo,
Okay.
and it's from northwest Italy, so I figured geographically that was a good pick.
It is. And the Germans, as they say in the movie, they call it Glühwein. I'm sure I'm saying it terribly in German, but meaning glow wine because you have it when it's cold outside and it's warm so that you glow after you've been out in the cold all day. At least that's what I read.
At least it's relatively cold here. Like it was 95 a week and a half
More
ago.
than it has
It's
been,
75 now. So yes, it's cool.
Well, and inside your house, Mike, it's probably 65.
I do like it to be an icebox in here. We have a couple of listener comments today. We're still researching the tattoo. We'll get back to our listener about the tattoo maybe the next episode. Quick one from Conan Neutron, who I have met and Charlie is aware of because
I've heard him on the 1001 Album Complaints
Conan Neutron
podcast.
guests on a podcast called 1001 Album Complaints where they talk about albums from this book called 1001 Albums You Must Hear Before You Die, and they mostly crap on a lot of them, but they have good opinions, and they're musicians.
Very entertaining
so
podcast.
I appreciate the
I
musician.
love the musician part because they talk about that a lot.
Well, because you are a musician.
Well,
you play a mean guitar.
I do play guitar. I don't know how well I do it, but
I'm strictly a listener because I am tone deaf. But just a real quick comment from Conan. He said, I subscribed and have been listening to all of these, and they're super cool. I like you and your co-host rapport. Most of these movies I haven't seen in forever, so it's cool to hear them broken down like this with a modern sensibility. I think that means we are woke trash.
yeah.
For Bond movie watchers.
Just so you know, on our rapport, this is what it's like to actually just be anywhere in a room or on the patio with us, listening to us discuss things, which
really
I think many of our friends and family find it really irritating. But people listening to the podcast only have to do it once every 2 weeks, so it probably is a lot easier.
Yeah, they don't have to deal with this constantly. So we just figured, if we're going to sit here and talk about a bunch of stuff that nobody in our lives cares about nearly as much as we do, we may as well record it for somebody else that might.
Exactly, or to annoy them too. Either way.
We also have an email from a listener by the name of Craig Lee,
You mean my former friend,
your
Craig?
former friend
From the
Craig.
last episode? Yeah.
Hi, Mike. I am Craig, friend of Charlie's. Firstly, your podcast is awesome. Of course it is. That's amazing.
Also,
Appreciate
he's
it.
English, so he loves these movies, I think. I'm sure that helps, right? They probably show them in school over there in England so that everyone knows to be proud of their English spy heritage.
You both compliment each other so well. I thought I knew a lot about Bond movies, but after listening to your podcast, I realized how little I know. I have got a few of my friends to start listening to it too. Awesome. Secondly, I mentioned to Charlie that the Leicester in Leicester Square is pronounced Leicester and not Leicester. Leicester Square sounds like some kind of patch you place on a kid's head when they have head lice. Interestingly enough, Craig, in America, we actually call that a Leicester Square, so I guess that makes sense. I can assure you, moving forward, I will never, ever again say Leicester. You have my vow on that.
See, what I said was yesterday when I was running with Greg, I said, it's amazing how these English names, you can take so many letters and put them in a word and then just completely ignore
Yeah.
them when you pronounce the word.
Couple more little comments. Finally, he has two main questions. First off, based on the books, who do you consider to be the best Bond villain?
Oh.
Is it actually somebody portrayed in one of the movies or somebody different? Well, not to sound basic, but I think that Goldfinger is the best in the books. I think that he's spot on with the movie, but I think he has the most quote unquote screen time
Yeah.
in the books. So I would go Goldfinger for the book. I haven't read Casino Royale in a long time, so we'll see if that changes when we get to Casino Royale. His second question: as somebody that has never read the books and who now wants to, which one do you recommend I read first? I think you start at the beginning. You don't necessarily have to keep in the beginning, but there is a bit of a continuity in all of them. But I think you do read Casino Royale first because it's a very good book and it's very spot on with the movie. But it's just a good starting point.
Now, I have a question quickly about the books, if I'm allowed to ask.
Yeah.
Since they were written, in the 50s?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, are the books very dated as far as the type of things that happen in them? And, like, is there not as much gadget? So is it more just back and forth with people so you don't notice the time period?
I'm convinced the gadgetry is a invention of the movies. There's
yeah.
really not much in the way of gadgets or anything like that. They're Cold War, so the
yeah.
dated aspects would be the stuff with Smersh was
That's
the main
right.
villain, so it was Russian, the Russian spy agency as opposed to Spectre, which Spectre wasn't created until the book Thunderball, which, if you remember from our Thunderball episode, dear listeners, that actually started as a movie screenplay before it was a book. Craig goes on to say, cheers, mate. Keep it going, Craig. So thank you, Craig. We appreciate it. You did win the contest this week, so we will be forwarding you an email, which will give you a great deal on McAfee virus protection for just $749. Keep an eye out for that. One news item, very small news item. Joe Karoff, the designer of the James Bond 007 logo, died at the age of, you ready for this, 103 years old.
Wow.
Joe, we hardly knew ye.
Yeah.
So young. But that logo is awesome. I mean, it's a great logo.
Oh, it's a great logo. Yeah, he's got to be one of the... I mean, I guess there are some of the actors are left, but they're all pretty old, right?
Yeah. We'll go into the plot summary. After he gets the drop on Blofeld Not Blofeld, James Bond is sent to investigate the death of the Havelocks, who were assisting in the recovery of the secret ATAC MacGuffin. After Melina Havelock dispatches with her parents' assassin Gonzalez before he can get answers, Bond seeks out Locke, the mysterious individual that was paying Gonzalez for his services. His investigation takes him to northern Italy, where he meets with supposed good guy Christatos. Bond avoids a potential felony with skater BB Doll, dodges some henchmen on the slopes, and eventually teams up with Melina and Columbo, the supposed bad guy who's actually a good guy. One more thing. 007 infiltrates Christatos' lair in Greece via an overly long rock climbing scene, and he, along with his sidekicks, defeat Christatos, recover the MacGuffin, and destroy it before KGB head Gogol can buy it. Bond once again ends up on a boat before deciding to take a skinny dip with Melina. For your eyes only.
How many people do you think got your Columbo joke?
As long as you did, I'm okay.
If you'd had a cigar in your mouth while you said it, that would have been even better.
We got to talk about the lack of cigars in the last 3 Bond movies.
Right.
After he was puffing on one in every scene in the first 2, I'm a little disappointed.
I don't know. Maybe there was sudden sensitivity to smoking in movies or something. I don't know. Some listener looked that up.
Yeah.
One of the 3 people who listens to this.
Yes, please do. Here's our cast. We got Roger Moore as James Bond, 5th of 7 appearances. Carol Bouquet as Melina Havelock. Topol as Milos Colombo. Topol is best known for the lead role in the movie Fiddler on the Roof, which I've never seen.
Neither have I. Add it to our list.
There we go.
My wife would be very disappointed to know we haven't seen it.
No.
She's also put Purple Rain on the list of what we both have to see.
Lynn Holly Johnson is Bibi Dahl. Julian Glover is Aristotle Christatos. Cassandra Harris is Countess Liesel von Schlaff. We have Jill Bennett as Jacoba Brink. That's Bibi's coach in the movie. Michael Gothard as Emil Leopold Locke. John Wyman as Eric Hitler Youth Kriegler. Jack Headley as Sir Timothy Havelock. And then we got Desmond Llewellyn as Q, 10th of 17 appearances. Jeffrey Keane as Sir Frederick Grey. Walter Gotell as General Gogol. I haven't been keeping track of him, but I think this is at least 3 of him as Gogol.
It's 3 I remember at least, yeah.
James Villiers as Bill Tanner. And then we have Lois Maxwell as Miss Moneypenny. 12th of 14 appearances. Or it's almost time to say goodbye to
I guess it is.
Lois Maxwell.
Just one thing to note. She and Roger Moore are beginning to look their age in this movie.
Most definitely. And they're very close in age, too. Crew, directed by John Glenn. That's not the astronaut, just so we're clear. John Glenn, the astronaut, did not do this in the 80s. This is the first of 5. He actually directed all 5 Bond movies in the 80s. And before he was a director, he actually edited 3 of the Bond movies, including, he was, I think, 2nd unit director on the ski scene in On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Oh, okay.
Hence why we get a ski scene in this one. We have some ski talk, too. We'll have some.
We do. Yeah. I can't wait for ski talk, and I did enjoy the ski scenes.
Yeah. Screenplay by Richard Maibaum and Michael G. Wilson, the producer. He is the stepson of Cubby Broccoli. Music by Bill Conti, cinematography by Aled Hume, and production design by Peter Lamont. A lot of new names here. No, obviously, Ken Adam, no John Barry. You know, we're seeing some different people. Theme song, For Your Eyes Only by Sheena Easton. Written by Bill Conti and Mick Leeson. Release details. This premiered June 24th, 1981 at the Odeon Leicester Square. Leicester Square. This premiered June 26, 1981 in the UK. Just a side note, I actually premiered shortly after on July 16th, 1981.
Oh,
so this will be the last Bond movie made before I existed.
I was 14 or something.
Yeah, you're old enough to be my father in a very, very warped world. Budget, $73.1 million adjusted for inflation. Pretty expensive movie. Worldwide box office, $599 million adjusted for inflation, 18th of 25. Not a huge success, but started out pretty strong box office-wise. Any history with this one? This is the last one you probably didn't see in the theater. Did you see Octopussy in the theater?
I believe I did. Okay. Yes. I don't think I saw this in the theater, but I remember a lot of the scenes from this. Oddly, I remember this opening scene with the helicopter stunt a lot. I think there was a lot of publicity about that because it is a pretty wild stunt.
It is.
So we'll talk about it in a second, but I definitely had a memory of that stunt.
My only memory of this is that it was like one of the last old ones I watched because I had the tapes, or I had most of the tapes. I don't think I had this tape, so I never watched this one. So I had not seen this one as much. So with that, we'll go to the scene-by-scene breakdown.
Yeah.
We start off with a callback to On Her Majesty's Secret Service. James Bond is visiting Countess Teresa's grave, showing she died in 1969. put some flowers on her grave. We see a priest coming up and saying that he is wanted back at work. So
What's the epitaph on her gravestone?
go for it.
We have all the time
Of
in
course
the
it
world.
is. Yes. So the priest tells him that he's wanted back at work, and we get a Universal Exports helicopter that comes along. So he hops on that, and
With no question.
as Bond departs, we see the priest doing the sign of the cross to him.
Right. So was the priest in on it?
I guess. I mean,
I
why
mean,
would you give last rites otherwise?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, but that's the first thing I thought. So the priest was part of this?
No,
Maybe it's a fake priest, I guess. But,
maybe.
yeah, I don't know.
So they're flying along, and the pilot's headphones all of a sudden, like, great special effect of him getting like electrocuted in the ear.
Yeah.
So he dies, and we see that Blofeld returns. They could not use the name Blofeld. I couldn't find any specific information about it, but for whatever reason, they didn't have the rights to Blofeld at this point.
Well, the guy who makes Never Say Never Again had it.
Did he have the rights to Blofeld
He had
too?
the rights.
Okay.
That was my understanding. I mean, I'm just reading.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not the authority, but he had the rights, and this was just like a in your face of we're going to kill him.
Yeah.
You know, because they were mad about this whole rights issue and everything. So that's what I read is this whole scene is just really to throw it in that guy's face.
Now, what's crazy is obviously we had Blofeld after on Her Majesty's Secret Service. So Blofeld must have once again broken his neck after, because in Diamonds Are Forever, he didn't have a broken neck and he looked very different. So he decided, I'm going to break my neck.
He does get hurt though, right? I think he does get hurt at the end of that. Because
It's
I
really
went to
questionable
read,
what happened, yeah.
I
This
went
is
and
clearly
read.
the Blofeld from On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
I think you're probably right. But yes, because he, in that one, on the bobsled course, he hurts his neck.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
I know. The whole thing is pretty funny.
We can't try to put a continuity to this stuff. It would just hurt our heads. So we do get to see Mr. Bigglesworth again. That's nice that he gets to make another appearance.
Yes.
These are characters we will not see again for a long time.
How did Blofeld get on this roof? Like, he's there by himself, right? He's just all by himself on the roof of this building.
Who knows?
This is quite a setup. So he knew Bond's going to the cemetery that day.
Mm-hmm.
He follows him. He gets himself up on this roof and sends in the helicopter. Like, this is pretty elaborate.
We haven't even gotten to the opening credits yet, and Charlie's
sorry.
already ruining the movie.
I'm already trying to ruin it.
So Bond's flying over, or the helicopter is flying over London. Blofeld's controlling it. Instead of just killing Bond, he's got to have all this fun with him. So, it gives Bond plenty of time to get out of the helicopter and get into the control area.
Which was an awesome stunt. When he's hanging, when
Yes.
he's standing on the rail of that helicopter and it's flying around and he's trying to get into the front seat and everything, it was pretty sweet.
Eventually, he's in there, and then the helicopter goes into a building, and that whole scene of them in the building, like the helicopter, they filmed it. It was on a rail, so they could have Roger Moore in the helicopter for the filming of that.
Thank goodness, because that looked ultra dangerous
Yes.
if you were actually flying a helicopter in a building like that.
So eventually, Bond rips out the wires that are allowing Blofeld to control it and gets control of the helicopter. And then he goes to that roof where where Blofeld's sitting in his chair, skewers
By himself with no weapons of any kind.
skewers Blofeld on the runner. So now Blofeld's freaking out. And he says the dumbest line that I just don't understand. I'll buy you a delicatessen in stainless steel. That was his bribe to Bond for letting him go. I read the book that had like all the production notes, and they didn't really talk about that in there. Okay. So we'll look that up and maybe get back to you on it. We do get a little quip where Bond says, "All right, keep your hair on."
That was good.
Eventually, Bond does get the drop on Blofeld and drops him right down into the smokestack. Something I did read in the crew commentary on this: the crew members are convinced that wheelchair is still at the bottom of that smokestack because they never went to recover.
Oh, that's awesome! It was a real stunt, and that was an abandoned factory or whatever, right?
So any of our millions of British listeners, if you want to tell us whether that smokestack is still standing, and if so,
head on over there.
Yeah, go over there and crack open the side of it and see if that wheelchair's in there.
I'm sure that abandoned factory is a totally safe place to hang out.
Now we go to the opening credits, which to me just looked like a Sheena Easton music video. I will say that this is one of the things I hated the most about this movie was the opening credits. They'd never done it before. I don't think they ever do it again. They put the singer in the opening credits singing her song, and I did not like that at all. What'd you think of that?
I could take it or leave it. I do like the song. Now,
The song grew on me.
Mike spent a week saying how much he disliked this song and that it was in a string of bad ones. Obviously, Moonraker recently being a really terrible one. I think the song's pretty good, but I could do without seeing Sheena Easton's face in the opening credits. I mean,
not that there's anything wrong with Sheena Easton. No. It just doesn't make sense.
She seems
for the
pretty
Bond
cool,
movie. Yeah.
and the song is good. She sings it well, all that, but it isn't a normal Bond opening. But the other thing I noticed toward the end is the naked girl at the very end of the credits. Boy, they aren't doing much silhouetting at that point. Like,
right.
It's really, I'm like, they're really getting bold with these openings as far as what they show.
I don't think we're going to get to see that much more often because I think that I struggle to remember the opening credits for like the Daltons and the Brosnans, but I don't think they get to keep doing this the way they're doing it.
Yeah, the world changes.
Maybe when the PG-13 rating came along, they decided
that could be too. I don't know. That's an excellent question.
After the opening credits, now we're on a quote-unquote fishing boat called the St. George's, which is actually a British reconnaissance ship. We get a quick shot.
Now, how cool is the door on that thing, right? Of all automatic doors, right? Where he goes to that wall and suddenly it kind of slides to the side and you can go in there and then go into the spy part. That was pretty cool.
I should say that Charlie's referencing here, before he goes to this door, we do get a quick shot of this. He's clearly one of the Weasley brothers puffing on a smoke outside before he goes to the control room.
Wow.
Where we see the MacGuffin of the movie.
Yeah.
The ATAC, Automatic Targeting Attack Communicator, which does what, Charlie?
Well, what my understanding was that it is how they can communicate with all their submarines to tell them what missiles to launch and who to launch them at and all those type of things. So they are out there where they can have communication with all those different submarines. Yeah. That was my understanding of what it does.
Okay.
And you have to handcuff yourself to it. Did you notice that? The guy walks in and he handcuffs himself to it. Just like you do, like the beginning of War Games or something like that, when you're the person actually launching the missiles. So obviously you have to do it here because you are not going to live. And this way, I guess, you don't have any reason to think you can escape. So therefore you figure you better just do your job, I guess.
Are you referring to the movie War Games with Matthew Broderick?
Yeah.
I will never forget my favorite line in that movie is when he's sitting in his class. This has nothing to do with anything we're talking about, but he's sitting in his in the classroom, and the teacher is like, what animal reproduces asexually? And he calls on Matthew Broderick, and Matthew Broderick responds, "Your wife, sir?"
I forgot about that line.
I will never forget that line, even though I've maybe seen that movie twice. Hilarious. Watch War Games, everybody.
It's a very good movie. Yeah. This sort of, wandering off is also what it's like to sit around with Mike and me.
It is. So we see the fishermen. I mean, this was a real fishing boat. They were clearly really were fish.
Well, you have to do that to keep up the ruse, I guess, right?
Yeah, so they're hauling in their catch, which turns out to be a very explosive catch because it's actually a water mine.
Yeah.
These looked like those World War II mines that you see in movies and stuff.
It was great. The ones that are like chained to the bottom of the ocean and stuff.
And then, so it hits the side of the boat and blows up the ship. So unfortunately, the guy that's handcuffed, the chain was just a little too long, so he couldn't destroy the ATAC before the whole ship sunk.
Dude, you got one job.
Yeah.
One job.
So now we're at the Ministry of Defense with Frederick Gray. We've seen him in a few of these now. He's like Secretary of Defense kind of guy for the British version. He's told the ATAC is missing and the ship was sunk, but not deep enough. So now we go to Gogol. He's learning that the ATAC is going to be available to buy. And then it looks like he's about to have more slap and tickle. Gogol clearly is.
He's very distracted as he's on the phone. Yeah, he always seems to have some young woman there with him.
I really like the Gogol of these few movies.
Yeah, he's good.
Now we go to Greece, where we see a plane arriving by water. Oh, it's crazy. You arrived by water plane today. It's really weird because there's like no water around my house. It was very rude.
Just
You
in the
destroyed
pond right by
you
him.
destroyed my yard.
Yeah.
So thanks for that. We get a quick shot of Mr. Havelock and Chekhov's parrot. We we have Melina Havelock was in the plane, and she's there to visit her parents. Melina Havelock, played by Carol Bouquet. I apologize if that's not the correct pronunciation. I just know that the French don't do their T's. So
Yeah, I don't think
we'll
French.
say Bouquet.
Well, even in English, we say bouquet, right? So, but I doubt too many French people are listening to this.
She was a very successful French actress model. She became the face of Chanel, and then much later she married Gerard Depardieu, legendary French actor from one movie I've seen called The Man in the Iron Mask.
She's got some very striking hair and eyes, doesn't she?
That was a big thing, yep. Quite the eyes, quite the hair. Wonder if the cuffs match the curtains.
Wow.
As a callback to Diamonds Are Forever. Okay, so Melina's on the boat, and she's going inside for something, and then Gonzalez turns that plane around and shoots the parents to death, so they both die on the boat.
Yes, as they both stand like statues,
watching
staring at this plane bearing down on them.
I mean, in fairness, like the guy just dropped their daughter off to visit, so it's like they were just like, "Oh, I hope he's okay." I don't know. I get your point, but then we get a long shot of Melina and just a close up of those eyes.
So what I read was that was supposed to be the opening pre-credit scene.
Makes sense.
Before they decided to do the Blofeld thing, and they were going to zoom in on her eyes, and then it was going to go to the opening credits, which would have worked, obviously.
Yeah, and then her eyes would have turned into Sheena Easton's, and Sheena Easton would have got a free music video.
Oh, man, now you're talking.
So now we're back at MI6 with Moneypenny. Apparently she knows Bond's about to come in because she goes to put on some lipstick, and it had to have been a Q-engineered little vanity thing, the way it popped out and everything.
It was because they played a little noise when it popped out, so it obviously wasn't just on a regular spring.
And then we get something I'm pretty sure we only see this one time, which is Roger Moore throwing a hat on the hat rack. Dude's never worn a hat in any of these movies. But he throws a hat. So...
But just so you can have that mirror scene where she sees the hat in the mirror.
A little callback. Because honestly, I think this whole movie is a callback to the Connery era, if I'm, really thinking about it. Yeah.
Yes. They probably said, we made Moonraker. It's really crazy. Yeah. Let's go back to basics.
Yeah. So... they have their little banter as usual. We learn that M is on leave. And the reason M is on leave is because Bernard Lee passed away during the filming of this movie. Very sad. He was he was M for the first, 11 Bond movies. Yeah. And now he's gone. Yeah,
and from what I read, they just didn't want to replace him, right? It's during filming.
Cubby Broccoli said absolutely
not. Yeah, everybody likes him, and they just come up with this story, and they make some of his lines. Obviously, we'll see Q take a part that probably would have been him.
Yeah, and of course, Frederick Gray. So Frederick Gray and Chief of Staff Bill Tanner, they're sitting in M's office. They talk with Bond about, the Havelocks and how they were killed and everything, and Bond is given a file that says "For Your Eyes Only," which is dubbed Operation Undertow. So they want Bond to track down Gonzalez and get info about this assassination. So now we move to San Martin, Spain, where Bond is driving a very nice white Lotus Turbo. I bet this one doesn't go underwater. I think it's just a standard Lotus. Well, it's not a standard Lotus, I should say.
It's not a standard
We'll get there in a second.
It doesn't get a chance to go underwater, though.
Yeah. So he's going to question Gonzalez. So Bond is, scoping out around this place where I guess just a bunch of scantily clad women are hanging out, and Gonzalez is there. And
if I were a supervillain, that's pretty much what my backyard would look like.
Assassins were, that's good money in the assassin work. So the women there, obviously, you could tell it was kind of like the On Her Majesty's Secret Service thing. They were different ethnicities from different parts of the world. So here's my first big interesting tidbit. So obviously for us, we only call the main Bond girls. But if you're a woman in one of these movies, and you're basically on screen. You're quote unquote a Bond girl. So I want to talk quickly about somebody by the name of Caroline Cossey. This was the first transgender Bond girl. She was outed after this movie. So in the first, when Bond, because Bond is looking around, but then he gets captured by the goons.
Right.
And as they're walking by, there's somebody that comes by in a bikini walking by. That is Carolyn Cossey. She was born with something called XXXY syndrome, which means that she was born with 2 extra X chromosomes. But, she had been going through, the required medical procedures and stuff to transition to a woman. She was assigned a male as birth, but she transitioned to a woman, and it wasn't until after this movie that she was outed. So,
This
she
was early on for going through
I mean,
all
we're
the medical
talking
procedures
we're
and stuff,
talking
at least.
1981.
Yeah, I think so.
So she was outed after this. Went through some struggles with that. Became an advocate, outspoken on these issues. But I had never heard of the XXXY syndrome.
No.
Which I
Neither
mean,
have
because female is XX, right, and male is XY.
I believe so.
Yeah. So I mean, that kind of makes sense. If
Mm-hmm.
present as a boy, but having those 2 extra X chromosomes. I mean, biology, folks. And that's our segment, Charlie and Mike Get Woke. And now we will move on.
Now we have to talk about the most egregious part of this scene,
Okay.
which is the music that is playing at this backyard party, and it is
80s garbage.
awful.
Yeah, it's
It
pretty
is
bad.
so bad. When you watch this scene, people just let that music sink in.
Yeah.
It's really bad.
So the goons take Bond's gun and they're going to, I don't know, take him off and kill him or whatever. Gonzalez is just going back to his party, so he dives off the diving board and then he's killed by a crossbow bolt while he's diving. Very good shot. Amid the chaos, Bond escapes, and he eventually, running through the forest, runs into the person that shot the crossbow, and it's Melina Havelock. And I'm going to keep pronouncing this different ways. Havelock, I'm not sure of the pronunciation. Hopefully one of our 8 billion British listeners can tell me exactly how to pronounce it. It's probably just like Leicester Square. So Bond comes up to Melina. She shoots the crossbow and turns out it kills somebody that's behind Bond that was about to kill him. While we have this, we have another henchman that's checking out Bond's car, which is equipped with a burglary prevention.
Burglar protected, the sign
Burglar
says.
protected.
Yeah.
So he tries to break in with his gun and the whole thing explodes. The stuntman for that scene was the great Bob Simmons, who's been doing stunts for Bond since, Dr. No. So he was the guy that was like blown away from that. But that was awesome. The car blowing up. And,
You know how disappointed Q is going to be that car doesn't come back.
I read that was kind of a thing too where, look, we're showing you that Bond is getting back to basics here. He's not going to get all these fancy cars and devices and stuff. Yeah. Apparently it was a big hit in New York when that car blew up because there was a big car theft problem at the time in New York. So the crowds loved that.
Yeah.
So now we get this car chase. Bond goes back to Melina's car, and she is driving, I think Charlie will agree, our favorite car of the movie, the Citroen 2CV.
Let's stop here for a second before we get letters on the pronunciation.
Okay.
So, I've heard it also called Citroen.
Okay.
Okay. But yesterday, when I was running with Craig and Gavin, who are both English, they said Citron.
Citron.
Yeah.
Isn't it French, though?
It's French.
Okay.
Yes. So that's probably the English pronunciation. Yeah. And I'm sure none of the 3 pronunciations we said are really the French one. But they loved this car and talked about how ubiquitous this car was because it was kind of like the Volkswagen Beetle.
Right.
Of
even in the look,
French
especially
cars.
in the back.
Yeah, and made in the late 30s, kind of like that, and stayed the same car forever, like the Beetle did, right? Yeah. They never really much updated it, and very low powered, just like the Beetle. But it's a very good chase scene.
I'm kind of surprised that they didn't pronounce it the Leicester 2CV. But anyway, so we get a pretty long car chase, but it's a pretty fun car chase.
A very fun car chase.
Yeah, they're going through this town. Bond tells Melina to take the low road. The car's flipped. We get a little stupid quip where Bond says not that low because they're upside down.
Well, do you know what kind of cars are chasing them?
I read it. I forgot the name. I bet you.
Peugeot 504s.
There you go. Peugeot,
Yeah.
another French
Which
one.
is kind of, their sedan
Yeah.
based Peugeot. And it was driving me crazy, as things will do, when they're driving kind of sideways down those hills and jumping over all the people who are within the trees there. I wondered, what are they harvesting?
It's olives.
Yes, it's olives.
Yeah. Yeah, those are olive trees. You didn't know that?
No,
Wow.
those are olives.
Although I don't know. I mean, maybe one of our many Spanish listeners can tell us how many olive fields there are in Spain.
Well, I would think a lot because Spanish olive oil is very, very good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I just always associate that with like Greece and Italy. So
Yeah, no, Spanish olive oil is very, very
good to know. Maybe we'll
good
get a Spanish olive oil sponsorship.
Maybe we will.
So it gets flipped. The villagers come help flip it back over. Eventually, Bond does take over the driving. So they're bouncing around through the fields and everything. And just like Frank Costanza, Bond stops short at one point and gets one of the chasers to flip.
And he does the stop short and he reaches out his arm to put in front of Melina as if to hold her back.
Yep.
Yes.
Was
I
that
wrote down the same
Okay.
one.
We were
The
talking
Frank
yesterday. I was
Costanza.
like, I have one.
That's my move.
I have one Seinfeld reference in this.
You stop short, I stop short.
Yeah.
That's my move.
So one of the cars flips. As always, I'm disappointed it didn't explode because I think everything should explode when it flips, crashes, whatever. They're crisscrossing the roads, bouncing around through the olive fields. Bond has another little quip. Love a drive in the country, don't you? Which at that point you can see the actress Melina. She's like smiling, and I don't know that she necessarily was supposed to be smiling there,
Right.
but it's funny. The other pursuer eventually ends up at the top of a tree, and Bond and Melina drive off. So now we're at some random hotel somewhere, I think in Spain, where they talk about how Melina wants to get revenge on the person who paid Gonzalez to kill her parents. And this is where we get a quote or a little bit that's directly from the book. And by
okay.
book, I should say the short story, because this is based on 2 short stories as opposed to a book. There is no For Your Eyes Only book. Chinese saying, before setting out on revenge, you first dig 2 graves. So,
It's a good saying.
Yeah, it is. And that's what he says to her. So now we're back in England. Bond gives Freddie Gray and Tanner some intel. Then Bond goes to Q's lab to ID the guy that was at that pool party that was there to pay Gonzalez for services rendered. Which, by the way, he just packed up the suitcase and left after that, because why not?
Yeah.
Even taking the money back from one of the girls that was sitting there that Gonzalez had given the money to.
Yes.
So now we get the fun Q lab part. The only like technology stuff in this movie is just Q's lab. We get the arm cast, yes, how the arm is. And
It smashes the person's head.
it's
next
pretty
to
awesome.
him.
We get the very impractical spiky umbrella. How do you deploy that? I mean, you like...
Well, you just loan it to somebody,
I guess.
and then they're in the rain because it's England. So then it goes down and spikes their neck.
And we get a quip, stinging in the rain. Have you ever seen Singing in the Rain?
No, I have not.
My God, Charlie. Do you like movies?
They're all right. I mean, are there any lotuses in that movie?
I don't think so.
Okay.
So speaking of lotus, we do get to see a red lotus in the background as Q and Bond are walking along to...
Well, do you hear what Bond says to him? He goes, "Oh, you put the lotus back together?"
I was like, we've never
I
seen
think
that
after it
lotus.
explode. Well, I think he means after he just destroyed one.
Oh, okay.
I think it was a joke because then Q gets annoyed at
I
him
gotcha.
and tells him to stop
call.
making jokes about it.
So they go to this room where Q enters some numbers on the keypad, and then Bond inputs a couple more numbers. And Charlie gets full credit for this because he heard it and I didn't. The keys that they put in, Q starts out the lines from Nobody Does It Better, and then Bond finishes them.
Yes.
So now they're checking out this, using this fancy computer technology called the identigraph,
Oh, the identigraph.
where Bond gives all the details about, he's blonde hair, it's parted in the middle, he's got blue eyes, but a little more hazel. And eventually they manage to make a picture of a guy that looks remarkably like the guy that was sitting at the pool with the money.
So hang on. So first of all, do you notice when they do the hair at first, like you actually see like a weird background picture of different styles of hair going through?
Yes.
And also, they don't do that for anything else. But also, I mean, Q is just over at a computer, like typing things.
Yes.
He's got a tiny little keypad, and in theory, he's doing this. And then they do the long nose thing as so that we can all laugh. And then what we find out when we see the final drawing is that John Lennon was the one who was trying
That's
to
what
kill
you
him.
gleaned from that, huh?
When they do those little
I
like
get it.
glasses.
Okay, I get it. Yeah, that makes sense. John Lennon, who had just died.
He had just died,
Just
I guess,
died.
at
That's
this
sad.
point. Yeah, that is sad.
Oh, that's just been an episode of Charlie Brings Down the Podcasters.
Exactly.
So once they get this design, they're able to run it through a system, and it immediately tells them exactly who it is.
I mean, so fast.
I'm glad that there's no technology that exists that would enable you to just that quickly get a picture of somebody and immediately tell you who it was.
Well, of course, now there is. But at the time, they had to print that out on a dot matrix,
Dot matrix.
printer.
I had it. I got for my 12th birthday a dot matrix printer. That's how big of a nerd I am.
That is
make
nerdy,
I make
especially for
graphs.
you because you're younger. Like in my day, that was it. You could get a daisy wheel printer, but then you couldn't print any graphics, right? It could only do text. But do you even know what a daisy wheel printer is?
This is our first episode of Charlie's Way Older Than Mike. I do not. I know dot matrix, which
Yeah.
none of our young listeners have any idea what a dot
Daisy
matrix
wheel
is.
has a wheel, which I will kind of show to Mike and no one else can see it. It's round and flat, and in the middle is the part that it grabs onto, and around the edges are all like the little typewriter-like letters.
Okay.
And then it has a hammer that comes out as it spins and whacks it
Wow.
to print the correct letter on there.
Interesting.
Yeah, but you couldn't do graphics, so nobody like me, who was a kid who thought how cool it would be to print dot matrix on that, with the little pins paper, the green bar paper that you tear the edges off of.
So they identify, like I said, as Locke. That's and they know where he's at. Apparently, he's in this place called Cortina, which is a ski resort in northern Italy. And with that, we are going to pause for our companion beverage. We are back, and we have our mulled wine, or as they say in the movie, Glühwein.
Glühwein, I think. Germans can write in and correct us on that one.
Like I said, this is made from Michel Chiarlo Barbera style wine from northern Italy. Cheers.
Cheers.
That's great stuff on
That
a
is
warm
good.
summer day.
Oh, I know. Yeah, perfect.
It's really tasty.
It is
though.
good.
That may be one of our best beverages we've had.
I could definitely see for the winter. It'll be perfect. If I had just skied all day and I was in that nice little restaurant place down at the bottom, I could see that.
And obviously, we will put the recipe in the show notes. I wonder how many people have tried any of our recipes.
Oh, write in and let us know if you have and if you like them.
And we're thinking it, not that there are recipes, I just find them places, but if anybody has a favorite drink or anything. So Bond is now in Cortina.
Which, by the way, looks like a very beautiful place.
It does. Northern Italy. It looked like it's probably pretty close to the Swiss border.
Yeah, well,
Makes sense.
it's all probably in the Alps,
Alps,
right?
yeah.
So, yeah, probably looks similar.
And it actually was a famous ski resort that hosted the Winter Olympics in 1956.
Yeah, they had all the good stuff. The ski jump, the bobsled course, and the mountains for the skiing. And they had the cross-country biathlon course. It was pretty cool.
So Bond gets his hotel room, which honestly is a little more modest than a lot of the ones we see Bond in. I mean, it's a nice room, but it's nothing spectacular.
Well, hang on first.
Yes.
He pulls up to the hotel in a Lotus with a ski rack on the back. Pretty cool. I'm not sure that's the first car I'd think of to take to a ski resort, but I definitely noticed that.
Maybe he put the chains on it.
I seriously wondered whether it had like studded tires on it or
Had to
something
have.
like that. I would think so. It would not be a very good car in the snow, probably. The other thing I noticed was he actually tips this porter when he goes in the room. It's the first time I've seen Bond tip one of these porters who takes him to his room.
I
And
specifically
I've
remember
really
he
been
did.
looking.
Yeah, I specifically remember he did not tip the last guy.
No.
Bond's,
Maybe that's why people try to kill him all the time
Yeah.
in these hotel rooms.
Bond's taking a shower or whatever, and the mirror is fogging up, and it says on the mirror, Tofana, 10 a.m. So Tofana
That was a good method of communicating. Did you notice when he pulled up in the Lotus, the guy walking out looking kind of suspicious?
The guy walking out. We'll see him in a minute.
Yeah, that's clearly the guy who made the message on there.
Yeah, so Bond is up on Tofana, which I guess is just some, just like a lodge or something that's in this mountain area, where he meets this contact that, as Charlie said, he ran into going into the hotel, Luigi Ferrara, who is an Italian Secret Service agent. So Ferrara takes him to meet a local contact, or a contact that may give him some information on who might have this ATAC system. So Bond meets a guy by the name of Aristotle Christatos, who may know where that ATAC device is, like I said. This is the guy, Julian Glover. Just stop here real quick. The actor, Julian Glover. We have 2 Game of Thrones actors in this movie. Julian Glover played the old Grand Maester Pycelle. He was like a really old dude in Game of Thrones.
Okay.
And a little later, we're gonna have a henchman who actually was the guy that played Tywin Lannister, the dad of Cersei, Jaime, and Tyrion Lannister.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you know what's so funny is Aristotle Christatos looks old in this movie, and it's 1981.
Well, there was a joke about that. Like, he made a joke about how they made him look older because Roger Moore was starting to look older. So he
wanna
does
show
look
him up.
yeah. I mean, Julian Glover's still alive, but I mean he was probably like, I think, late 40s. But they made him look even older than that.
Interesting.
But yeah, good observation. So we have Bond. They're sitting around with he's sitting around with Aristotle and Luigi, drinking their Glühwein, and BB Doll skates up. BB Doll is a ice skater. Her coach is Jacoba Brink, and this is played by somebody by the name of Holly Lynn Johnson, who was a professional skater. And in a movie, Ice Castles.
My wife immediately yelled out, "Ice Castles!" Which I was aware was a movie about an ice skater, but I've never seen it. But yes, apparently this girl was in it. And she clearly was doing her own skating and was very good skater.
Did all of her own skating, all of her own skiing.
Yeah, and she does a good job at both.
Just not so much at the acting.
You know, I'm telling you, Mike and I have been discussing this.
No.
First of all, my wife doesn't agree with you. And second of all, I think they want her to seem like a teenager, and she seems like a teenager.
I mean, I just think it was a bold choice to cast a skater that can't act instead of like on Her Majesty's Secret Service, where they just casted an actor that couldn't skate. So Christatos is giving Bond some intel on Locke, who he says is working for a guy by the name of Columbo, also known as the Dove. Did you buy your little Dove pin yet, or your Dove cufflinks?
I haven't found one yet, but I need to look that up.
So Bond and Luigi depart. They discuss their next steps, and then we see Locke looking on while he's drinking some mulled wine that looks quite similar to what we're drinking right now.
Yes.
Bond goes into the town. Cool little town. I'd love to go to a little town like that. And he spots Melina in town shopping for crossbows and crossbow accessories.
At the archery store that you definitely will find in every ski town, I'm sure, in Italy. It was a very cool little ski town, though, and the square, the little town square, looked great. I mean, it just looked like such an awesome place.
Bond decides to go into the flower shop where he orders some lilies. And we see 2 motorcycles that are going to try to run down Melina.
Not just motorcycles, but they make it a point to do a close-up of their tires with giant, basically like nails sticking out of those tires, which obviously you would need in snow.
Right.
Motorcycle is not the most practical vehicle for driving around in snow and ice. But I
Right.
thought that was interesting that they definitely made a point to show those spikes, and it made me wonder whether that's like a real thing that people do.
Yeah. So Bond intervenes, takes the guardrail thing and smashes it up against one of the motorcycles, and then does kind of the same thing with the other one, but he like sticks it into the wheel well and it flips and goes into the flower shop where the flower lady is about to give Bond his lilies, and Bond has a quip, "Send them to the funeral, will you?"
That was a good
Did that
one.
really kill the guy? I mean, that's
I guess it did.
guess it
Well,
did.
I mean, going over the handlebars into the flower shop, all that glass hitting your head,
Yeah.
you break your neck, I think.
So Bond and Melina leave in a
I
sled.
did like that quip, though.
Yeah, that was a good one. We'll see if that makes our list. Bond and Melina leave in a sled. Bond is trying to convince Melina to stay out of danger. She does tell him that she received a letter stating that was supposedly from Bond,
Telegram.
telegram from Bond stating that he wanted to meet her there. So that's why she was actually there.
And he, of course, informs her he didn't send anything.
Yes.
So clearly someone's trying to kill her.
Yeah. So, he's convincing her to stay out of the danger for now. He's going to try to hunt down who did this. Eventually does convince her, but she tells him he doesn't have much time to do this. So he's going to have to get it figured out soon to figure out, the death of her parents. So now we're back with Bond at the hotel. He walks in and BB Doll comes out of the shower with just a towel on, and she tries to seduce Bond. She jumps into the bed, takes her towel off. How old do we think she is here? You say 16.
I thought I read
no.
somewhere that she was supposed to be 16 for the movie.
So I don't know the rules in Northern Italy, but that's very questionable, especially considering Bond is 54, or at least Roger Moore is 54 in this movie. But
I was very worried where this was
Yes.
going to go.
But-
Thankfully, they don't go there.
he shows incredible restraint and is a grown-up for the first time probably in the history of the Bond franchise, and he denies her any slap and tickle.
Even when she kisses him on the way out, I wonder how uncomfortable that would have been for him to act.
Yeah. Well, when we get to A View to a Kill, I'll discuss Roger Moore's feelings about being James Bond at the age of 58, and it's kind of related to that. So he eventually gets her out of the room, and then we're taken to the slopes where we see Bond and BB skiing. And like I said, the actress, she did do all this skiing stuff. I think, the close-ups, Roger Moore, he could ski, so he did those. And then we'll get to it in a minute, but the person that did like the coordination of the stunts and stuff, because we have a lot to talk about with that. But for now, we see that BB is watching a guy doing the biathlon by the name of Eric Kriegler. Looks like a very pleasant guy. Definitely not a former Hitler Youth or anything.
No.
Are we going to train for the biathlon? You want to do that?
You know what? It actually looks super cool.
It does.
And I would love to do it. I've only cross-country skied one time. I think we don't get enough snow around here, but I would like to do that.
Eventually, Bond skis off on his own and is pursued by the two motorcyclists and by Kriegler. Kriegler takes a few shots at Bond and misses, so we can see why he never meddled. But the ski stunt work was organized by the same guy that organized On Her Majesty's Secret Service, Willie Bogner.
Okay.
Now, Charlie has some tidbits about Willie Bogner because we discovered some very interesting information.
So if you notice, one of the things that so I've skied. I haven't skied in a long time, but I used to ski, and I enjoy these ski scenes. And I noticed that he's skiing with Olin Mark 6s, which is pretty cool. Those were popular skis back in the day. But he has this jacket on, and it's got the little zipper pull as a B, and that B is for Bogner. So that's a fancy ski outfit company. I guess most ski outfit companies are fancy. But so that was very noticeable. And apparently there's a relationship between the company, right, and the guy who did the coordinated the skiing for this, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he is the son of the founder of the company. And Willie Bogner was a designer before he went into like the film industry. So
Okay.
like,
Well, obviously, he probably skied a lot because his
oh,
parents ran a ski company, and supposedly his mother's the one who thought of putting that B on there. So it was like definitely a family company that they ran. So that was pretty fascinating,
and this has been another episode of How the Other Half Lives.
right? I mean, well, what are you going to do if you own a ski apparel company? Well, you're going to ski all the time in very, very wonderful places and become a very good skier.
I mean, everything I read, it's very, very complimentary of Willie Bogner and his skills because I mean, he would do things like go down backwards with the camera filming the people. And
Do you know
stuff.
how you do that? You have skis that have tips on both the front and back of the skis.
Okay.
So there are skis, you can see people very infrequently, but if you go skiing, you can see people. And we used to call them ballet skis because you could basically spin around. And, normally the tail of the ski is just flat. And if you went backwards, it would dig into the snow.
Yeah.
But the tips kind of point up. And so you can get skis so that you can ski backwards with those tips pointed up so that they don't get dug in. It's not
I'll tell you what.
easy.
When you and
Not
I will
easy.
go to a ski resort together, you do all that fun stuff, and I'll just sit in the lodge and drink,
Have some glue vine.
and have some glue vine. Yeah. So their Bond's being pursued by all these followers. This is where we actually see the henchman that I was talking about earlier, Charles Dance, also known as Tywin Lannister. Charles Dance also played Ian Fleming in a biopic, and at one point was considered for the role of 007. So he did try out for it at one
fascinating.
point. Yeah. Bond eventually gets to an elevator, which I guess they're going up to
The ski jump.
the ski jump, and Klaus, that's Charles Dance's character's Klaus, and Locke get in there with him. Obviously, he's very uncomfortable. Eventually, he gets to the hill.
So, do you notice all the people looking at him in the elevator oddly?
Mm-hmm.
So he's got regular downhill skis, and they all have ski jumping skis, which are very different from each other. So, the regular skis have bindings where both your toe and your heel are clicked in and connected to the ski. And those ski jumping skis are much longer, much wider, and they're only joined at the toe so that the skis, you watch those guys and they lean forward and the skis can kind of like bend compared to them. And he's got regular skis and they all give him this look like, you got to be out of your mind. What are you doing in this elevator?
So that was intentional, the looks they were giving.
Well, that was my assumption.
That's
because
interesting.
the first thing I thought when he got in that elevator is he does not have jumping skis on. This is crazy. And the guy kind of looks up and down a little bit at his skis like, what are you doing?
Okay. Interesting. So he gets onto the ski hill, does his jump, gets side-checked.
Well, so the other thing, when he gets to the top, you notice he clicks his boots into the thing, and the guy starts like yelling at him in Italian, which I'm sure, and I didn't look it up, it's like, dude, you can't jump in those skis. You're out of your mind.
Yeah.
But obviously in the stunt, the person actually does. It's pretty, I watched it a couple times to see what it looked like, and somebody, it looks like, clearly did actually jump in those regular skis down to the landing zone.
Probably not Roger Moore, though.
I'm gonna guess not.
So he gets body checked as he's going down the hill, but he, maintains his balance and does the jump. All the henchmen are chasing him. The motorcycles at this point, we get to see their guns flip up, and now, of course, the motorcycles have little machine guns built in, so that was awesome.
Which they had just neglected to use to this point.
Yes. So they're going down the hill, they're being chased, and then we get our running joke that we've seen now in 3 movies of the guy that's like drinking, and then he looks and sees all this weird action going on and makes this weird face. It's the same guy that was in The Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker that did that. Like in Spy Who Loved Me, it was when the Lotus was coming
really?
out of the beach.
This is when he goes through the restaurant?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, at the end of that, there's a guy that looks down the slope and looks at him. And that's the guy that was, like in Spy Who Loved Me coming out of the
That's
water.
funny, because he kind of runs over to the rail to see it all. So before that, though, did you notice all of the people who fall over when everyone skis past him? So that is ski school.
Mm-hmm.
So the instructor goes up there and he lines all his students up like that's how it's actually done. And so he skied past them and they all fell over.
Yes.
I thought that was kind of funny, having been in ski school before. But going through the restaurant, that was pretty good. And I just want to tell you, Mike, eating in an outdoor restaurant at the top of a mountain when you're skiing is very, very awesome.
Really?
Yes.
Seems
It's
to
very
me like
fun.
it would be very, very cold.
Well, it can be. Like if it's super cold winter, but that looked like a pretty nice day, right? The sky was blue. It looked like a pretty nice day, and it's very fun sitting up there on the side of a mountain, looking out at the mountain ranges and everything, and eating out there.
I would only do that if they had that big wheel of cheese where they like melted it. Was that raclette or something like that?
It might be.
I would do that.
You don't know what they have up there,
No,
right?
I don't
It
know.
depends on where you go, I guess. But yeah, that looked. It made me want to go skiing again.
So eventually we get to another bobsled chase. But this one's pretty cool because there's a bobsled on it, but Bond's on skis, and then we get the motorcycles behind him. I do want to take a side note here because there is the bobsled eventually goes off and crashes. 23-year-old Paolo Rigoni was one of the stuntmen in the bobsled scene, and he actually did die from the stunt crash that they did. So very sad. I think this was the first like recorded death that I've read of somebody on set that died doing a stunt.
Well, I read that other people ended up dying on that bobsled course, and that there were some dangerous turns on it, and they eventually modified the course because it was a dangerous course. But that looked like a very wild and dangerous stunt to be skiing down on a bobsled. I mean,
Yeah.
it's ice.
Yeah.
And you would go very fast. And on skis, I don't know how you'd stop, because normally to stop, you turn your skis sideways.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To slow yourself down.
I mean, I don't, but I do.
Yeah. And then the motorcycles, I mean, that was pretty wild chase down there. And the bobsled, look how much more advanced that bobsled looks than the one that was in On Her Majesty's Secret Service, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking
looks
10
like
years later or 12
it's
years later.
made of fiberglass and actually looks more like a modern bobsled than that crazy one did.
But very sad. Sad that,
That was sad.
I mean, obviously you're a stuntman. These things can happen, but still, you don't want to see it. Eventually, Bond jumps the bobsled course, drives through like a barn or something. Kriegler follows and crashes through the barn and falls over. Bond's a little farther down the hill. Kriegler is going to shoot him, but he realizes his gun's messed up. I mean, who throws a gun, honestly? But that's not the best one we get, because then after that, he picks up the motorcycle. Who throws a motorcycle, honestly? And he just flings it at him.
Super strong East German guys, I guess.
That was ridiculous.
Yeah, super strong East German guys. Well, back then, East German guys would have probably been on the juice, right? Because, I mean, they would have been feeding that stuff
But
to him.
still, why? What point did that serve?
I don't know. He was just angry.
So BB had told Bond earlier to meet her at the practice rink before leaving. And so we now go to a scene with Bond at that rink, arriving in his Lotus. He asks BB about Kriegler. And she says he doesn't like women or really anything. So really cool guy, really nice
No,
guy.
he sounds like a real great guy.
So they have a little banter. I think BB once again kisses Bond, and then she leaves.
Here's the part that I couldn't get over. He just walks out on the ice without slipping or anything. And then she even comes up to him and grabs him. So I just want to say ice, probably pretty slippery to walk on, right?
Well, if you've ever seen the movie Mighty Ducks, you would know that all you got to do is clench your toes together when you're walking and you won't slip.
Is that right?
Yes. So BB leaves. Now Bond is auditioning for Slapshot 2 with 3 hockey assassins. Such a ridiculous scene.
It is. This might be the most ridiculous one in the movie.
After a few checks, Bond regains his balance and gets the better of the 3 hockey assassins and gets a hat trick by, putting them into the goal, including the third one using the Zamboni.
Yeah. What's the worst part about it? So somebody turns the lights out. Okay, so there's an accomplice. But somebody is upping the score and playing the buzzer each time he gets somebody into the...
I think that's automatic. I think that I think that there's a little button in the goal. When they go in, it hits the button and it dings the score.
All right, we got to fact check this.
We'll check into that.
Yeah, because, they just dragged that net in there and set it down. This is 1981.
Okay, we'll see. We'll look into it.
Let's look it up.
So Bond gets the hat trick, knocking those 3 guys out. He leaves. He finds, unfortunately, Luigi is dead in the Lotus with a white dove pin in his hand. Unfortunately for Luigi, Mario was not around to save him this time.
Wow.
So now we are in court.
So now we know for sure Columbo did it, right?
Of course, because
now we know.
He put his
We
calling
heard.
card, White
Yeah.
Dove, on there.
Yeah.
So now we're in Corfu, Greece. I would love to go there. That looked awesome. It's an island.
Did.
It's very cool. Bond's walking through the market with Melina, and then they do a little sightseeing at some ruin. They have a brief little romantic encounter. Just a little talk back and forth. Nothing terribly important to the story. Later, we're at a hotel casino where Bond is playing, I assume, again, Baccarat. That seems like the game.
How rich must he be? Like, why do you continue risking your life if you could beat people at gambling and make so much money?
Yeah. So at this point, we have Bond playing against a guy by the name of Bunky. Great name.
Yeah.
And we see Countess Liesel von Schlaff, and she's taunting Bunky. Liesel is taunting Bunky to bet all his money against Bond because he has 16 going on 17. Get it? Liesel,
Yes,
Countess,
Liesel.
Sound of Music.
Very nice. I do love that song. That's a great song from
Yeah.
Sound of Music.
Okay, here's the piece of trivia I've been holding on to for a week now. Countess Liesel von Schlaff is played by a woman named Cassandra Harris. At this point, Cassandra Harris was married to a guy by the name of Pierce Brosnan.
Oh my goodness.
Yep. So this is Pierce Brosnan's wife. Very sadly, she passed away in the early 90s from ovarian cancer.
Oh, that's awful.
So, but
We're bringing everyone down in
I
this
know
episode,
this is
Mike.
sad, but I just had to point that out. I thought that was
Wow,
fascinating
Pierce
that a
Brosnan.
future Bond,
Yeah.
his wife was a Bond girl, and they were already married before this. She also made some appearances on Remington Steele, which was why Pierce Brosnan didn't become Bond until later than he did.
Till after Timothy Dalton.
Yeah. So now we have Christatos showing up, offering Bond some unneeded advice on how to bet. Eventually, Bond cleans out Bunky, gets all his money. Then Bond and Christatos go and have dinner. Bond orders some ouzo, which we decided not to make a companion beverage since we have already had ouzo.
We've already done it, so it's good stuff. But
It's fine. I mean, Charlie likes it because he likes bitter, weird things.
yeah. I like licorice too.
Yeah.
Black licorice. If things are bitter and sour, I like them generally.
So we see this Countess Liesel with another guy, and Christatos tells Bond that this is Columbo, and that guy is dirty and should be assassinated, and clearly he's the guy causing all the problems. So Bond immediately agrees with Christatos, knows there's nothing fishy going on, and he kills Columbo. The movie's over. No, wait, no, that's not what happened. We see Columbo actually leaves the table, and he goes to listen to the recording of Bond and Christatos.
Well, here's the thing. So, when the guy comes and changes out the candle at the table, I immediately said to myself, you'd think Bond would be suspicious because, that's pretty suspicious. This candle that's working fine, I'm going to switch it out. But it was obviously a spy candle.
Yeah.
With a tape recording device in it.
So Columbo goes and listens to the tape. Here's the conversation. And then he goes back to the table, and then there's this scene with the Countess where she,
They pretend to get in a fight.
Yeah, they pretend to get in a fight. She dumps water, wine, or whatever on him, and then she walks out. Bond knows it's a trap. He knows it's bait, whatever. So he decides
But
to
he sees
take
some
it.
fun in his future.
he takes
As
the
he
bait.
always does, he goes with the girl who he assumes to be evil.
Yes. So he escorts the Countess out, and then we see Melina in the background listening in. So she's around too, checking things out.
Well, Christados lets him take his Rolls Royce with her up to wherever they go.
Yeah.
Right? He sends his car, which is a pretty nice Rolls Royce.
So Bond and Liesel are flirting in the car. They arrive at her house. Bond is invited in, and we get our one and only true slap and tickle of this movie with Countess Liesel. It's also revealed at this point Countess Liesel's not Eastern European or Western European. She's British. I think she said Liverpool. In real life, she was Australian. And so then we go to the next morning. They're walking on the beach, and all of a sudden we get this scene with Locke and Klaus. I think there was a third dune buggy. We have these dune buggies that are chasing them down. Poor Liesel gets absolutely obliterated
Oh
by
my
Locke.
gosh, yes.
That was not a dummy. That was a stunt
Oh,
woman
you're
that
kidding.
took that shot.
Wow.
So I wanted to make sure to point that out because that was a stunt woman by the name of Sid Child. She had worked on the Avengers TV show. I was reading in the like crew notes and stuff. Roger Moore said that he ran over when she got hit because it was that looked very
It looked brutal.
yeah. And she was like, "No, I'm okay, okay." And he's like, "Yeah, I could tell she wasn't completely okay, but she didn't die or anything. She wasn't severely hurt, but she obviously was hurt from it. But, um, props to her for taking that hit because
My
that was a
goodness,
hit.
boy, it looked like her head really hit that windshield.
So now, Locke and Klaus have the better of Bond, and Klaus is about to shoot him, and then Klaus gets shot by a crossbow. So at this point, I'm like, oh, it must be Melina that's there to save
exactly,
him. And
right?
it's not. It's all these guys that are coming out of the water, and they have these wetsuits that all have the white dove on them. So,
Yes, so it's a very confusing moment. I guess it's meant to be confusing because it keeps being confusing for a small bit of time here.
So they knock Bond out, and he wakes up on Columbo's ship. This is where we get a bigger scene from the actor Topo, who plays Columbo. Get a really strong Karam-Bey Draco vibe from this guy.
Yeah, he's very
from
charming.
From Russia with Love and On Her Majesty's Secret Service. He's a very big pistachio fan, as we will see
Boy,
many a
yes.
times in this.
Uh-huh.
Columbo's trying to convince Bond he's not the enemy, and that yes, he's a smuggler, but he doesn't smuggle drugs, anything like that. So he just smuggles things like cigarettes. So he's okay. Which, I mean, so was Draco. He was the same kind of guy.
Right.
So
He basically
it
was,
is what it is.
Yeah.
Bond doesn't trust him. Eventually, Bond is able to trust him when Columbo hands him back his gun. So I guess that was all you needed to do. Because
Right.
he pointed it at him, but then he handed it to him.
Yeah.
And so now they're friends. And Columbo then further says, we'll go to this facility for some reconnaissance, and you can see that Christados really is the bad guy. So now we're in this opium warehouse in Albania, and
They show up on a boat,
yeah,
right? And they all jump out.
yeah.
And fortunately, all Columbo's guys are wearing black, and all the other guys are wearing these light blues, so you can tell who the good guys
Yes,
and
makes it
bad
easier
guys
for the
are.
audience, of
Yes.
course. So we have these shootouts between with the henchmen and Locke, similar to the gypsy camp scene in From Russia with Love.
Yeah.
Columbo comes up with so you have this scene where they're like going inside the warehouse, and Columbo throws these pistachios on the floor, and that was actually an idea that the actor Topol had to do.
Really?
Yeah, he thought of that. He's like, I'm going to throw these on the floor. So that what that does is, when they step on them, they know that the
The guy
bad
gets
guys are coming.
close. He knows they're there. Yeah, and because they crunch on the nuts. That was pretty good.
Yep. So there's some more shooting, and then one of these big wheels of whatever breaks open, and Bond gets some of the liquid out, and he says it's raw opium. I mean, I prefer my opium medium rare, but this was raw opium.
I know, right? Opium tartar.
Yeah. So Locke is setting up the warehouse to blow up. The henchmen do step on those pistachios as they're getting closer. More shooting.
They undo the ropes on those gigantic containers, and they all roll over some
Yeah.
people and knock over the thing. It was a pretty cool scene in there. And you see a ton of stuff in there. Hand grenades and more of those sea mines are in there, like a bunch of those things.
I did
There's
see
a
that, yeah.
crazy bunch of stuff in there.
Eventually, they get out of the warehouse because Locke is running away. So, Bond obviously wants to chase him down. Bond throws a grenade at some guy, and the guy immediately picks up the grenade and just blows up.
Yeah.
Always a good idea.
Yeah.
Locke does blow up the warehouse. Everybody seems safe on the good guy's side, so Bond is chasing him down. I mean, Roger Moore running up these stairs. He did not sound...
The first thing I thought was, I'll bet that's a stuntman running up the stairs.
I don't know, because he was breathing pretty hard in that.
I don't know. Some of the shots were far away, and I'm guessing the far away shots, he was not running up the stairs.
The close-ups
Maybe
when
the
he's having to
close-up
do it,
ones.
he's like, oh.
Yes.
Eventually, he catches up to Locke, shoots out his tire, so the car spins, and it's on the precipice of this
Oh, I thought he shot him, but what do I know?
this cliff. Oh, well, he might have hit him.
He
yeah.
shoots through the windshield.
Okay,
I think he
right.
got him like in the shoulder.
He got him. It didn't like kill him.
And then the
but
car goes out of control.
caused the car to go out of control.
To the cliff.
So it's hanging on the cliff. Bond throws the pin at him, and then the car is starting to go, and then Bond gives it a little kick. Roger Moore really did not want to do the kick. He said, "This was not in character with my James Bond. I would not kick the car." So he had a big back and forth with John Glenn about it, the director. The director was like, "Look, we'll throw the pin in there, and then you can just like slightly nudge it." I mean, the car was going to fall anyway, but he was telling Roger Moore, "It's like, this guy just killed Liesel. This guy killed, was responsible for the deaths of Melina's parents. So you're going to be a little pissed about it." So
how many people has he killed to this point?
I mean, Bond, yeah.
He's killed a couple other people.
Yes, but not in such a callous manner.
I know, where he could have saved the guy.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So he falls over, Locke's dead, and all the other, Columbo and all his guys come up, and Bond, we get a quip. He had no head for heights.
Yes.
So we're back at the dive site in Greece. Bond and Melina are checking out the underwater temple, and my wife pointed this out, actually, that Melina leaves her oxygen tank.
Oh, Becky noticed that right off the bat, too, and it's still kind of inexplicable.
Yeah.
Obviously, we'll see why it comes in handy, but it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Then they're back on the Havelock's boat looking for her dad's papers, getting some clues as to where, the ship went down.
Where it went down.
So now they're exploring the deep. They're on this 2-man lockout submersible called a Neptune.
Pretty cool looking.
It is very cool. Most of these underwater scenes were shot in the Bahamas because the water's just so much clearer there. They do find that St. George's, that's the fishing boat from the beginning, and they have 8 minutes to retrieve the MacGuffin from the St. George's. So we cut to Christados, and he sees Bond arrive. We do get some sharks here, so we do get to see Jaws. Unfortunately, it's Jaws 1975, and that's the only Jaws we get to see here on out. We don't get to see the better Jaws anymore.
I do miss Jaws.
I do. So Bond and Melina are in the St. George's. They see all the dead crew. They're looking for the ATAC. They do eventually find it. As they're going to get it, we hear Darth Vader approaching.
Yes.
Or maybe it's Jason Voorhees approaching. I don't know. It could be one of those two. No, actually, sorry. It's a henchman in something called a gym suit, which they did talk about the gym suit.
They showed it in the exploding place. They must have had another one.
Yes, which that suit basically allows you to go to depths that when you come back up, you don't get the bends from it. So it's
because
pressurized
you're totally inside the metal.
Yeah.
Now, they go through a very elaborate way of removing this ATAC, right? They have to cut some wires. They have to pull out this exploding thermite charged thing and all this stuff. And my first thought was, why not just pull on the handle and destroy it?
I don't know. I can't tell you. I mean,
because then the movie would be over.
All right.
Obviously. But it seems like your job would have been to destroy it. Yeah. But anyway.
So like I said, this gym suit, it's there to... And by gym, I'm saying JIM. It's 3 capital letters. It's to prevent the bends, but why would anybody want to prevent the bends? It's a great Radiohead album.
It is a good album.
We get this extensive fight with the henchman in the gym suit. Bond does get this bomb that he sets a timer on it.
It's magnetic.
It's magnetic, of course, and he puts it on the back of the gym suit. I thought this fight went a little long, but he does eventually get the ATAC away and is able to get away from the guy in the gym suit before it explodes. But of course, it does explode.
Yeah.
Bond and
it's a pretty good scene of the guy's head exploding.
Yes. Bond and Melina eventually get back to the Neptune, and then there's another henchman coming along in this one-person submersible with some, claws on it that he's trying to prevent the Neptune from getting away. Bond eventually, propels it up against, a reef, and it gets stuck so that the Neptune's able to get away.
I'd love to know how they filmed this submarine fight. It doesn't look like it would have been easy, right? They must have actually had 2 submersibles. Now, of course, they were probably only, 20 feet under the water, not right. 500 feet under the water. But still, it looked like it'd be hard to move these things around and clamp them together.
Yeah.
And Bonds is more powerful, so he pushes that other sub into the ship, and it kind of gets caught so that he can get away.
Hey, it's a Bond movie. They pull out all the stops for those.
Yeah.
So yeah, they break free and resurface, all to just be end up just being captured by Christados. So Christados gets the ATAC back.
What? Hang on.
Yeah.
We can't just go there. They get out of the sub, right? And then you see that these people are standing on the deck, okay? And that they're not actually free. And the East German killer guy is standing there in the tightest bathing suit in the world. And you see a lot more than you really want to see of that guy. I mean, they couldn't have found him some better fitting bathing suit or at least taped some things down or something. I mean, it is more than you want to see of this East German killer guy.
Wow. I must have just blocked that. I mean, I know what you're saying.
And
now,
the camera
but,
goes right up his body from his feet. They just pan right up.
This shot's for the ladies
I
and
guess
some
so.
gentlemen.
I guess.
But anyway, the ATAC's lost again. And now we get our favorite part of a Bond movie where the heroes are, treated to some sort of overly elaborate way to kill them. So Bond and Melina get tied up. This was very interesting because I didn't realize this actually did come into play into a movie. This scene where they get tied up and get dragged along behind the boat came directly from Live and Let Die, the book.
Oh.
Bond and Solitaire, who in the book were buck naked for this scene, were tied up and dragged along the reef like that.
Wow.
Yeah. So
it didn't look pleasant.
no. And it also, I felt, went a little long. But eventually, Bond gets some of the ropes cut as they're going along the reef. They get dragged along a little more. And then Bond is able to wrap the rope around some coral and stuff where it finally breaks free. And there's this little, extra propeller device that snaps and flies into the boat, knocks one of the guys off the boat, and the guy gets eaten by sharks. And Christados just goes, leave him. Typical villain.
It is, but I'm thinking, wouldn't the other guys on the boat be like, wait, but that's Jim.
Yeah.
We work with Jim every single day. We come to work. We know Jim's family and everything. Henchmen. Why do you stay with these guys?
It makes me think of there's a scene that was cut from Austin Powers, the guy that gets run over by the steamroller. Mm-hmm. There's a whole scene that's cut where Rob Lowe's in that scene, actually. And he's given a eulogy to the guy that gets run over by the steamroller, and the whole family and all the friend henchmen and stuff are there. Very funny. It's that's what I pictured after,
Yeah,
from
he's
your
just
comment.
just leave him. You're like, wait, you're just leaving that guy? What are you going to do to me when I fall off the boat?
So once again, in true villain fashion, Christados eventually just assumes Bond and Melina are going to die. So they leave. They got to get to, their meetup spot to meet with Gogol.
Okay. Here's what I think of, right? So they get back in their boat. And their boat's 100 yards from Christados' boat. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I'm like, how close have they been this whole time? So Christados' boat, when he sends the other submarine down to fight him and all this, they could have seen him and been like, maybe we shouldn't take our sub over there because there's another boat right on top of where we're taking our sub. Maybe that's going to be dangerous.
There's a lot of rocks around. Maybe they were hiding behind a rock.
Okay.
This has been an episode of Mike tries to justify Charlie's inaccuracies. So Bond and Melina back on the boat, and this is where they get their clue from Chekhov's parrot as to
Well,
where...
this is where they use the oxygen tank that they left at the bottom of the
Oh,
water.
yes.
Though,
That's
right?
how they get away, or how they're able to get back
They're
to
able
the
to
boat.
stay under so long. Did she know this was going to happen? Why? I want an explanation for, in real life, why she would have left it down there.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Anybody that has any thoughts on this, you
I
have
got
the
a
email.
serious problem with that. It would have made more sense if they came back up next to the boat and just hid behind her boat or something. That I could buy. Have them refilm it.
But we do get our Chekhov's parrot moment where he reveals where Christados is going, but not completely. He just gives a name that apparently, here in a second, we'll find out there's a lot of things named this.
Yeah.
But now we go to Bond going to church. Bond confesses. Q does not forgive him, but does give him an update on Christados' location. They're checking all these places that have this name that the parrot said, and none of them work out. And then Bond's like, "Oh, I know somebody that might be able to help us." So we do get to Christados' lair now, with Melina, Bond, and Columbo. This was shot at a place called the Meteora, which is a real monastery.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Not just
It's
a Linkin
real
Park
monastery.
album.
Oh my gosh.
That was a reference for the kids.
Yeah.
All the kids that listen to Linkin Park.
Actually, they're probably adults now.
Oh, yeah, they're like 35, but they're kids to me. So, yeah, they're shot at a real monastery. It was really funny because the monks at this monastery, they refused to let them film inside. They didn't want them to film anywhere around it at all. But eventually it got to the Greek Supreme Court,
Oh my gosh.
who intervened and said that the monks only had the right to the interior of the monastery.
Wow.
So the monks stayed inside throughout filming, and then they protested they would put like distracting flags and stuff outside of the monastery that would disrupt the filming.
Wow.
Bond, Columbo, and Melina arrive, plan the infiltration, and this scene, this is my least favorite thing in this movie, and you're going to talk about it too, but the rock climbing scene I just thought went on too long. But
It goes on a long time.
Bond has to climb up the opposite face of the rock in order to get to Christados' lair to figure out a way to get everybody up into the lair.
And first he goes walking off with a bright red rope, which I thought to myself, that doesn't seem like the color of rope I would choose if I was trying to be inconspicuous. Yes. And then I asked Craig. So Craig is a rock climber. And so I asked him what he thought of this scene, and he went back and rewatched it because he hadn't seen this in a while. And probably since he'd been a rock climber. And he was just going crazy about how ridiculous this scene was. He talked about how the end of the rope that has the knot keeps changing positions. The rock face keeps changing. It goes from an incline to an overhang. Here's one for us. Without having a belayer, his rope is pretty much pointless, and in real life, nobody ties a knot in a rope at one end and climbs solo. Pittons don't bend either. So he says that he said his takeaway is this: I would never, ever, ever want to go climbing with James Bond unless I wanted to die. The other thing he says is, if I wanted to be inconspicuous, the last thing I would do is take a metal hammer and pound metal pittons into the face of a rock. Like, how loud would that be?
This has been our first episode of Craig Ruins a James Bond movie.
Ruins the movie, exactly. But I will say, it goes on a long time, and you know Bond is going to live, right? So they really drag it out. But yes, what I started thinking, how are these people not going to hear the echoing sound of banging these things into the side of that rock as he's climbing up?
While we're going through this unnecessarily long climbing scene, we do get a cutaway with Christados chatting with Bibi. Bibi says she's leaving. She doesn't want to deal with Christados' crap anymore. So she no longer has a sponsor. Bond is struggling to get at the top. There's a henchman that finally does realize, oh, somebody's trying to climb up out here. So my wife was convinced that why didn't he just shoot at the ropes or whatever. But he doesn't. So he goes and has this little hammer, and he's like trying to hammer what are they called? The little
Pittons.
pittons. Hammers the little pittons to get them out. So one of them
Maybe pitons.
one of them he gets out, and Bond falls a bit. That stunt was pretty cool because that fall was like 300 feet, and they said that they had to do it in such a way that it slowed at like 20 feet, or otherwise the guy would have died. So
Yeah, because that was a long fall.
So they created the stunt in a manner that it slowed him down towards the end. So Bond has to climb again. This is where he takes his trusty... Once again, we get a trusty shoe. We haven't really seen a shoe get so much use since Dr. No. And
now, Craig does say this is a real thing.
This was the most accurate.
Shoelaces to climb the rope.
He said this was the most accurate thing. So he takes his shoelace and ties it onto the rope so that he can use it as to propel him up.
So the guy keeps hammering the nails out, right?
Yes.
He's lowering himself down, seemingly not really doing much other than clinging onto a rope.
Yeah.
I would have shot Bond myself,
Yeah.
but
Well, I feel like he didn't see Bond until it was almost too late
he might not
he was
have, but
over the edge. But anyway, Bond gets back up eventually, pulls a knife out and just chucks it at the guy, and then the guy falls. And Countess Tracy's favorite scene in this movie is the guy falling off of the cliff. That once he hits the ground, he just like dead hits the ground.
yes,
She's like, "Why didn't he explode?" Not in like a TNT explosion
no.
fashion, but you fall from that height, there's going to be stuff coming out of
There'd have been
orifices.
some goo.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
So Bond does get up to the lair. There's this little basket that he's able to send down so that Melina and Columbo's, I guess we'll call him henchmen. Columbo's henchmen are able to get in. So they start infiltrating the lair. They start taking out all the henchmen. You notice they try hard to not kill any of them.
Well, so that first guy who finds them, who comes into the place while they're bringing people up, he gets shot with the arrow, but then they just say to keep him quiet and they tie him up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how many people are you about to kill? Like, I mean, I'm just surprised.
I mean, Bond just killed a guy that went over a cliff. So
Yeah.
very
and then
interesting.
they just shot, the arrow through that guy who they could have just kicked over the edge of the cliff. Yeah, I was surprised they kept him alive. I wasn't sure the point of that.
We get a brief scene with BB and Brink packing to leave. Then we get a brief scene of Gogol coming in on a helicopter because he's coming to buy the ATAC. We get a lot of henchmen sleeping. That was funny.
Why are they sleeping in the middle of the day?
I don't know, but they're all asleep.
I know.
These are the night guards, apparently.
Well, maybe. I'll accept that answer, actually, Mike.
Okay.
I'll accept that.
There you go.
Although I would think when the Russian guy's about to show up, like, this would be the time you'd have every guard awake. But I'll somewhat accept that.
So they disable all of them. We get another scene of BB. This time she's again with Christados. This is where she gets smacked around by Christados. Okay. And Bond eventually gets in there, crashes the party. He goes through a very nice looking...
I mean, they fight for a while, and you see the stained glass, and you know what's about to happen. That
Check off stained glass.
Yeah.
Then he fights with Kriegler. And she gets smacked by Kriegler, too, because BB tries to step in to help Bond against Kriegler, and that was just a dumb move. But still, you got to give her an A for effort and courage. So she gets smacked around again, and then Bond and Kriegler fight. Eventually, Kriegler does take a trip down the mountain. Not one he wanted to take, but he is also now dead, we assume. So then we get Columbo and Christados fighting outside as Christados is trying to get the ATAC to Gogol.
Yeah. And
Christados gets the better of Columbo, but then Bond comes along, gets the ATAC. Melina's standing there with her crossbow, ready to shoot Christados, and Bond tells her she shouldn't do it.
And in one of the most cliched scenes that happens in movies, the good guys fight over whether they should kill the bad guy or not.
While a different guy
kills
the bad guy. So Columbo...
I was sort of glad Columbo got to kill him, right? Because they go way back.
Kind of looked like Columbo died at that point. But he didn't, obviously.
Well, he falls over, so you definitely think he's hurt in some way.
So Bond has the ATAC. Gogol's coming up to collect it, and Bond just chucks it off the side of the cliff, so neither of them have it.
Gogol's... They got a gun on him, right? That's the reason he can't, in theory, get away. But yes, he chucks it over the side of the cliff. I did think Gogol keeps his guy from shooting Bond.
He does.
Like professional courtesy, I assume. Right? They have worked together. I mean, they worked together, right? They were allies at one point when their submarines were stolen, right? So,
I mean, it's a mutual respect, and Bond says, "Well, it looks like it's a detente." So it ends in a draw, and Gogol leaves.
Did he say détente?
Détente, sorry. I knew I pronounced it wrong. But yes, right. Détente.
I'll take it.
And then we see BB finds a new sponsor in Columbo. She's down there nursing Columbo.
Because he's obviously injured. So that was good.
We now go to Bond and Melina on a boat.
Of course
they're on a boat.
Well, she does have a boat. So this one is kind of...
But still.
Sense. Yeah.
So Q's trying to get 007 on the line because the prime minister, a woman, gasp. I mean, I don't know how long she had been prime minister at that point. Maybe a year or two, Margaret Thatcher. I mean, I couldn't stop thinking Margaret Thatcher naked on a cold day from Austin Powers when I saw her.
Yeah.
But she wants to chat with Bond, congratulating him. Bond doesn't care. He puts the watch on because it's they're talking through the watch, which
Of
that's
course.
crazy technology. Could
Which
you
appears to
imagine?
be a Seiko that has both a analog area and a
Yeah.
digital area.
Yeah, but Bond puts the watch on the bird's
Perch.
and the bird just ends up chatting with Margaret Thatcher. We get a brief scene of Margaret Thatcher's weirdo husband coming in to steal a Brussels sprout. Apparently, that's an inside joke that probably worked well in Britain, but we wouldn't
Yeah.
understand here.
Now, apparently, this lady was famous for imitating Margaret
Yes.
Thatcher, but it was a pretty goofy scene.
Yeah, kind of like the lady that always played Queen Elizabeth that was in The Naked Gun,
Oh, yeah. Yes.
who just died recently, actually. We get Bond and Melina taking off their clothes, swimming away in the nude, and we get the end credits. And that's it, For Your Eyes Only.
And she says, "For your eyes only,"
When she takes off.
as
Yeah.
he's taking the robe off her. It's a good line.
Yeah. All right, trivialities. So I did say, Bernard Lee died January 17th, 1981. He actually tried to come in and do some filming, and he wasn't up for it. So, like I said, Cubby refused to recast. Michael G. Wilson and Cubby Broccoli intentionally scaled back this movie because they didn't want to continue to try to top themselves with what they did with Moonraker.
Yeah, this was just a straight up action movie, pretty much.
Roger Moore was actually film by film at this point. He didn't have a contract for any more movies, so there were some other people that did test for the role. I didn't get specific names.
Well, it's kind of old.
Pierce Brosnan did visit the set once while they were shooting in Corfu, Greece. Apparently, that kind of stuck in the mind of Michael G. Wilson.
Interesting.
So that's why may have helped him eventually get the role. Book comparisons. So, like I said, this was a good combination of two short stories. For Your Eyes Only, that one was specifically about there was this like wealthy criminal business guy from Cuba that went to, I want to say Jamaica, to try to buy the Havelock's estate from them, and they wouldn't do it, so he killed the parents. And so the daughter, who was actually named Judy Havelock in the story, in the short story, vows revenge on him. The bad guy, Gonzalez, ends up in northern Vermont or something. He's like in America.
Wow.
And so they go to take him out. So For Your Eyes Only is all about assassinating Gonzalez. Rosico is the other story. And Rosico is all about Cristados and Colombo.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but the story it was interesting because the stories I really liked both of the stories, and they took a lot of elements, and there really weren't any huge differences between them, which makes sense because, like I said, this is a very scaled back movie.
Yeah, they're trying to this is just a spy story.
Yeah,
with a lot of action.
So final thoughts and rating. So what I liked, I mean, Columbo is awesome. I loved Columbo. Melina was awesome. I loved the back to basics story. I did not like, as I've already said, I did not like the opening credits. I don't like that they put Sheena Easton in there. I thought that was weird. I thought, she could have just been singing the song and they do the normal credits. And of course, I didn't like Bibi. I mean, she's just, I get what your point about she's trying to be a younger character, and maybe a better actress could have done that better than she did. But rating wise, I am still going to give this a 4.5. I really, really liked.
Are we allowed to do point?
Yes.
Fives?
Yes, you are.
Is this the first 0.5 that's ever been voted?
It is the first 4.5.
So did you just make this up on the fly that
No,
we're allowed to do 0.5?
No, Letterboxd has half.
I didn't know we were governed by
sorry.
any kind of governing body.
Yeah, I'm going Letterboxd ratings.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Okay. Well, I did like Columbo and Melina too. I really loved all of the outdoor winter ski scenes and all of the chase scenes. I really like those. So I think that was good action. And I really like the Citroen car chase.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Apparently, according to Gavin, the seats in those cars used to basically just be metal frames with just like fabric suspended in them, almost like a lawn chair.
Nice.
and they were telling stories of people just lifting up the corner of the car to change a tire and stuff,
Yeah.
kind of like with Volkswagen Beetles, because they were, made out of such lightweight materials and everything. So I did like that. Things I didn't like, I could have done without the hockey scene. Like seriously done without that hockey
Pretty
scene.
cheesy.
It was very, very cheesy. Most of the other stuff I liked. BB wasn't the best. I'm going to give her a pass because she was playing an immature kid and she was being an immature kid. So I'll give her a pass.
It didn't bother me that much either because also
Yeah.
she was not a professional actor. She was a professional skater that became an actor.
Yeah. I'll give her a pass on it. And she did her own skiing and skating. So,
Yeah.
Whereas Roger Moore probably couldn't run up a flight of stairs at this point. But things I didn't like, I guess it was noticeable to me how old he was.
Yeah.
And I know we're not even done.
Oh,
but
yeah.
but he's noticeably older than both Melina, obviously BB too, but even Melina, to the point where you think, would she really be attracted to this old guy?
I will say, I don't think
it's distracting.
I have to look at Pierce Brosnan again, but I'm pretty sure that because he's 54 for this one, I don't think there's anybody that played Bond at 54 other than him.
Yeah.
Past or present. Not counting Sean Connery.
He does a good job as Bond. Yeah. I like him as Bond. And I almost think if you just took the romantic part out of it, it would be totally fine.
Yeah.
Right? That's the only reason it distracts me is because... So, I mean, this is nitpicking, right? It was an enjoyable movie. I liked it.
What's your rating?
I think it is 4.5 because that would put it right below The Spy Who Loved Me, which I really like.
That's pretty high for you. So it's above Thunderball. It
is above Thunderball.
Okay, we'll come back to it in a second.
It's fine.
So rankings. So for me, this one's 7th, which means I have it right after Thunderball and right above Moonraker.
I think it's 4th for me, but this is so hard for me because it's sort of a whichever one I've just seen bias in a sense. Like it's hard to you'd have to almost watch them all in one day, which I am not going to.
And honestly, the rating too. It's like I watched this 3 times in a week because we're recording early because I'm not. I have to go to Philadelphia to see a village about a thing. That's a very insider reference. I hope everybody gets. But no, I'm not going to be. We're recording a little early. We are not going to release it till next week. But I watched it 3 times this week, and it grew in my esteem each time I watched it.
Yeah, I liked it, and I do find myself liking Roger Moore. I mean, I think his nonchalance I kind of like.
Yeah, I mean, could you imagine if it was like everybody just being Connery for 25 Bond movies? That's not as fun. It's fun to have a different kind of Bond.
It is. Also, Roger Moore really liked this movie.
He did.
This was one of his 2 favorites.
So we'll talk about the theme song. I don't mind the theme song. I think I'm actually going to put it at 6, and you're going to laugh at me for this, but I actually do like The Man with the Golden Gun better, so it's right under The Man with the Golden Gun.
All right, let me see where I have it. I'm probably going to put it higher than you, but we'll see where we are here. I'm going to put it at 5.
Okay.
Which is right after Diamonds Are Forever, which you don't even like, but...
Not a fan.
Yeah, I know. I think it's memorable. Okay. So it's hard for me, right? There are a lot of good ones, but these that I've heard a bunch of times, like this one. So as another part of Charlie's older than Mike, like this was an actual popular song I heard on the radio. Right. So that might bias me, but I thought it was a good song.
Okay. Slap and tickle count. We only get 1 this time. Technically, we don't get a slap and tickle between Bond and Melina. We
really don't know, and I sort of wonder if they were a little uncomfortable with the. Like I said,
I think
Roger Moore might kind of be uncomfortable at this point, and I wouldn't blame him. Right.
Yeah, and then we get Bond in a boat count 8 now. We are now 8 of 12 movies with Bond ending on a boat.
Man,
and that's it.
Well, he is a sailor.
Yeah. Our next movie is Octopussy Galore. I mean, no, Octopussy. Just Octopussy, sorry.
It'll be interesting to see. I have not seen this one in a long time, so I'm looking forward to seeing it.
There's one thing I remember about this one, and it's the most embarrassing thing in any Bond movie. So
okay.
Stay tuned, everybody.
All right.
Thank you, Charlie.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Bottled in Bond. If you'd like to send us a message, you can do so at bottledinbondpod@gmail.com. Till your next briefing, pour yourself a drink, light a smoke, and find yourself a spirited companion. Goodbye.